Today on CityCast DC, I'm here with my CityCast colleagues, Emma Uber and Kayla Cote-Stemmerman. We're going to talk about the problems at the Lincoln Memorial Undercroft. We're going to talk about the viral July 4th photo of a woman on the metro. And we'll talk World Cup specials. Plus, speaking of soccer, in a members-only fourth segment, we're going to get into the proposed very expensive upgrades to Audi Field that you, the DC taxpayers, are going to pay for. It is Friday, July 17th. I'm Michael Schaefer. Here's what DC's talking about. Hey, Emma.
Hey, Mike.
Hey, Kayla.
Good morning, Mike.
So, Emma, you had like a hell of a scoop on our website this week. You've reported that the Undercroft, the new museum thing under the Lincoln Memorial, where there's copies of the Emancipation Proclamation and the 13th Amendment, maintains dangerous conditions. The heat is screwy. You saw a fan pointed at these historic documents because apparently their enclosure was not like at archival standards. This is like the latest in a sort of string of screw-ups around the Lincoln Memorial involving the Park Service. It was really a jaw-dropping story, and it made its way around, and now there's more news.
Yeah, I got a statement this morning from a spokesperson for Kenneth Griffin. He's the hedge fund billionaire and philanthropist who owns these rare copies of the Emancipation Proclamation, 13th Amendment, and they're removing the documents from the museum. And this comes, less than a day after my reporting. In this statement, the spokesperson says that the National Park Service has informed us that the documents were exposed to temperatures modestly above the optimal conditions for long-term preservation. And so they're going to be temporarily relocated while the National Park Service resolves the environmental challenges driven by the heat wave engulfing Washington, D.C. To me, that sounds like confirmation that the National Park Service is struggling to regulate the temperatures inside the display cases for these very old, fragile and sacred documents.
But to me, your colleague and huge fan, it sounds to me like they're continuing what they were doing in your own story, which is to like understate this, that like moderately above the recommended temperature. That's all true. But like these are professional people who are dealing with priceless artifacts. And in their world, like keeping things at exactly 67 degrees or whatever is like kind of what you're supposed to do. And like just acting as if all this is just like, well, things happen and it's a heat wave in Washington. Who could have predicted it? Seems like really avoiding what looks like just a screw up. And I don't, maybe it's because of all the other stuff going on, which, as Kayla covered, the launch of the Undercroft has been 10 years in the making. It's not like part of the reflecting pool, like the look at me stuff that Trump is doing, but maybe because of the backlash against that, there's a reticence about just saying like, hey, we kind of messed this up and we're going to make it right, which would seem to be like the pretty obvious interpretation of what you've reported.
Right. I mean, I think that's true to some extent for sure. But I think that the documents being removed, I mean, to me, as someone who reported this story because I got an anonymous tip and was able to talk to some Park Service officials. And, the reason that people wanted to talk to me was because they were concerned about these documents. And so I think that it's actually like pretty heartening that regardless of the level of damage that may or may not have happened over the last month, they haven't been on display for long, that it does seem like there is going to be a serious effort to try to assess these documents and what's going wrong. And, as a reporter, you don't always get immediate response to your reporting. And so, I mean, yeah, of course, they're not coming out in a statement being like, we were wrong, it was this temperature. But I think that changing the way they're treating these historic priceless documents, or at least reevaluating, is like a pretty big testament.
It is crazy that they're using the heat wave as a possible excuse, because you can't tell me that it's not this hot and humid in DC every single summer. And we have all sorts of priceless documents in other locations around the city that do just fine. So I do feel it does seem like a bit of a workaround. But I agree, Emma. It is great that this is being handled.
Can I just like back up? I guess I think I'm the only one in this conversation who hasn't been to the undercroft. It was rolled out with a lot of fanfare ahead of the 4th of July. Both, what is it and what was like? Tell us about your reporting besides just like the temperature of these documents.
Right. So the undercroft it's a really cool idea. It's a exhibit underneath the Lincoln Memorial. It's like a 50,000 foot space, but the exhibit is 15,000 feet. And you can like look out over these like columns that hold up the Lincoln Memorial. It's really cool. But I had received some information that people were concerned about the conditions at the undercroft. Obviously, the most kind of jaw-dropping assertion was that these extremely rare documents, of which there are not many left in the world, are signed by Abraham Lincoln, were not being properly stored, that they were at temperatures hotter than they're supposed to be, which when it comes to old paper, that can be really damaging. And so I went to check it out. I didn't really expect to see like a visual indicator of this, but I did go and there was just like a fan, like a room fan set up across from the documents pointing towards them. And so that was a pretty immediate indicator that I was onto something, that these concerns might be legitimate. More than the fan, there were just a couple other things here and there. Like, for instance, all the signs point to exit out one door, but they had people going through another door, and I asked why. Turns out that glass door had shattered. The National Park Service later told me it was after a collision with an automated wheelchair, but no one was harmed. And then also the Sally Port door system is part of their security measure, which is kind of just like a classic museum entrance system where like one set of doors isn't supposed to unlock while the other one is unlocked. Like one has to be locked at all times. That was not functional. There was like a countdown for like when the doors were supposed to be able to unlock. But a little girl pushed them open before the time. And it was like pretty
Maybe
obvious
she
that
cut
the
the
lock wasn't
reflecting pool
working.
too.
Right. I was like, okay, well, she's like 4. And so obviously anyone could open these doors that were supposed to be locked right now. So that was just a quick trip. It yielded more than I thought it would. I thought I was going to go and just like see the museum, but I was able to observe some things pretty like face value that pointed to some issues. But yeah, the National Park Service still has not answered my questions about why they have a fan pointed at the documents if it's going so well.
Had.
But
wait, what I thought was really cool, you lean on 3 Park Service sources, there's internal communications. So much of the stuff that's been happening on the mall this summer is really colored by people's feelings about Donald Trump. Trump made a big personal show of like picking the color for the reflecting pool and that kind of stuff. So people who don't like him, were kind of incentivized to find stuff wrong. And, they were able to find plenty of stuff wrong. And, same with the East Wing, demolition and the State Fair and so on. In this case, it was something that Trump personally I don't know that he's said anything about the undercroft, but it's not been like a big part of his version of the 4th of July. And the people who talked to you, as best I could tell from like reading between the lines of your story, were like nerdy professional Park Service or museum people who were concerned about like nerdy professional standards.
this does not really have like a partisan tint to it. I think that pretty much any sane-minded person can agree that we should protect rare copies of the documents that helped us end slavery in our country. And I think that a lot of the people that spoke with me in any capacity really cared deeply about the preservation of these documents and were concerned that maybe that wasn't being taken seriously. And so I think that that's something that anyone can get behind, that these documents should be protected. And so I'm thankful to them, and even like the museum experts that I spoke with to kind of orient me on how bad is this? What could the consequences be for caring about this, and really being like the nerdy people that know the science behind protecting these sorts of documents.
So I know this is all just going down, but like if you were to go, like what's in the undercroft now?
That's a good question, and I am trying to get that answered, because the statement I got from this hedge fund billionaire was that they are to be removed. I don't think that they have been removed as of Thursday morning. And I believe they're coordinating with the Park Service to remove them. And so, stay tuned on our website, on our socials. We will be following this for when the documents actually are removed. And I think that they use the word temporary relocation. So they should maybe be back at some point. I'm really interested to see what they're going to do to try to get the undercroft in shape to eventually hold these documents again.
We had a kind of an interesting conversation in our internal CityCast Slack about Ellie Silverman's story in Notice, where this is a reporter who found Bernita Bolding, who's the woman who was in that viral picture from Independence Day, a solitary black woman on a metro train surrounded by masked members of the Patriot Front, the white nationalist group. This picture, for what to me at least seemed like pretty obvious reasons, went viral almost immediately upon being taken by a photographer for Reuters who was following around this rather menacing white nationalist march. A lot of people on the internet reacted to it, as one does, and they used some hyperbole, as one does. This is a brave person. This is a modern-day Rosa Parks, et cetera, which in turn triggered a lot of like online bigotry about her. And it was sort of the conversation, sadly, you'd kind of expect. Ellie Silverman eventually was able to locate her. And, it turns out, surprise, surprise, this was a nuanced story. She was not on the train to be like a resistance hero. She's a person who's had some troubles, goes out of contact with her family from time to time, including right after the picture was taken. They filed a missing persons report. It's a really gripping piece and a really impressive piece of reporting. I'm curious what you guys think here. I thought there was also kind of a tone in this piece, which I've picked up, in other conversations too, of like, how dare anybody appropriate her story, which is to say, put their own interpretation on this picture. That she is a real individual person, and she was reduced to a two-dimensional symbol for, if you want to see her as a symbol of bravery and resistance, or of, some awful bigotry, and that is wrong, and that maybe the photographer should have asked permission before taking a picture, and so on. And I'm as a journalist, no, you do not need to ask permission to take a picture or do anything in public space. But also, more importantly, every picture ever taken in the history of humanity, the people seeing the picture are going to bring their own interpretation to bear over it. And this idea that you must have perfect information about the backstory of everyone in the picture in order to be moved by something, that seems really troubling, because I think does it really matter if she was a fancy person going to a garden party, or whether she was on her way to a doctor's appointment or to CVS or whatever when that picture was taken in the metro? I just thought, as a Washingtonian, you react to it because this is a person doing the most normal thing in the world, right? Taking the metro someplace. And all of a sudden you're in a situation that most people would find completely menacing. And I think that's enough to find it moving. I don't know. What did you guys think? Am I missing something here?
Yeah, Mike, I really enjoyed the notice piece, actually. I agree with you on the front that, we should be allowed to react to photos. And obviously, as a journalist, photojournalists should be able to take photos in public. Like many of the most famous Pulitzer-winning pictures that are in history books, were snapped in public. And I'm not before asking like the person's consent or for their whole life story. Photojournalism is just a way for people to kind of like reflect on everyday life. And I feel like this photo, especially for Washingtonians, really hit that mark. However, I think that it became such a story and social media's fixation became so much about her that I do think Ellie's piece did us a service in exposing some of that nuance. There was definitely a little bit of a scolding tone in there, but I didn't take it less as you shouldn't react to the photo. I took it more as a scold towards the people online that became so fixated with not just what the photo meant, but like who she was, and did assign a lot to her. And so to me, I think that like this just increases my understanding of the photo. The photo stands strongly on its own as like a symbol and a moment of what this moment has been for DC and like obviously for America too. But I thought that Ellie's story did a good job of reminding us that like, while that photo can be a powerful symbol, like oftentimes reality is like more complicated and nuanced than just a symbol. And I appreciated a more inside look. I also just thought that there were some lines that really stuck with me. Like, I don't know exactly what it was, but there was one where there was an interview with her brother and he was saying all these people want to call her like strong, this symbol, like they want to help her. But like the reality is this is a homeless woman. Like, are they actually going to help her in ways that matter? And I thought that that was like a really powerful contribution to this conversation that has billowed up around who this woman is.
I think it's also sort of specific to the time we live in now, because like anything that goes viral on the internet, there's inevitably discourse, which is good, right? Like as a photojournalist, I assume that you want your photos to be seen, you want it to speak to a broader trend, and you want there to be a discourse around it. But I think the difference is now that that's all accessible, right? Like I think about other famous photos, like the Afghan girl, like the Nat Geo Afghan girl that like is so famous, and like, but that happened at a time before the internet, before people could reflect on basically the person as a person, and that they could find this person, right? And Notice found this person, and bringing in that realistic perspective, almost like splashes like cold water over a lot of this more negative discourse, I think, which I think is a good thing in this case. But the fact that it kind of lives large in people's minds, I think will continue.
Just to be clear, I thought it was a terrific piece of reporting. I wish we'd have run it. Don't
Absolutely.
hear this as like as any judgment on that. I feel like just as a person who lives in DC and wants to know about his community, his city, I feel like my understanding of my community and my city and the human beings who live here is enriched. I feel like asking human beings to sort of suspend their projection basically means like no one can ever enjoy art again, ever.
Yeah, I think it is an inevitable part of being a human being and seeing art and seeing and reading journalism and participating in your community.
When I was reading the piece, the tension between like this piece and the initial reaction we all had, like I don't think anyone can pretend to be like holier than thou and say that they didn't react to what is clearly a really visually compelling piece of media. And so for me, it's like I have to think like as a journalist and as a consumer, like both pieces have value. It's almost like the breaking news story versus the follow-up story. Like there's value in the immediate capturing and allowing people to react to that. And there's also value in the step back that allow people to explore the nuance. And we just can't allow ourselves to be binary about this is the only way to engage with media.
Not to go too deep into it, but like nothing I learned in the reporting made me think like, boy, I had it wrong when I first read it. I just thought this is like a person going about whatever business puts you on the metro on the morning of the 4th of July. And I didn't think anything. I think maybe some people who are like who have their own agendas wanted to say like, this is, the Rosa Parks, who, historically was a person who intentionally went on that bus in order to like create a case to spur a movement, rather than what I assume everyone saw this as like, this is a person who did not choose to be there and is, like that's a Mona Lisa face. Like what can you read into that? Did you read like determined bravery, or did you read like get me the hell out of here, or did you read like who are these lunatics I'm surrounded? I don't know. Like I think that's the sphinxiness of it is part of the magic of that photograph.
Well, I think her expression too is very much how maybe like reflects. I think it's right. She's sort of like staring like up. She's a little bit like it's almost as if she's been caught in like this alternate reality that I feel like a lot of Washingtonians feel like they've been caught in the last several months, years. And I feel like that's why it really it hit so hard, especially on, DC, socials and in our community, because people relate to it so much.
I know we got to change gears, but I know, Emma, you had tried after the 4th of July to reach out to a photographer who I expect under pressure from his bosses was not talking to the media, but he has like since, he made a reel about how he got the photograph. Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw the reel. He sat down with Reuters, who he was freelancing for at the time. So yeah, I think Reuters was like, this is going to be our. I
don't mean to be like journalism nerd, but it really captures the like accidentalness and the hard work at the same time. That, he's a freelance photographer. He gets a tip. The Patriot Front is marching. He runs to the scene because this is obviously news on the 250th, and then follows, which is like could be kind of a scary thing for some people. And then he's on the train and he sees this one woman who's surrounded by them and kind of leans over and like holds his camera out and doesn't even realize at the time that he's gotten a shot that people are going to react to. This is not like he had like perfectly composed the shot and was waiting for like someone to sit down so that they could be surrounded by the Patriot Front, or that there was really any possibility that he would then be able to like stop this stranger on the train and get her life story.
Yeah, I thought that was so interesting. And I also thought it was interesting. I mean, this photo is the one that's taken off the most, but there's other photos of that day. Most notably, I'm thinking of there's a gay Filipino man that's been doing a bunch of interviews about how he actually felt safer because there was a photographer there taking his picture. And he was like, I looked at that picture and I saw how much I stood out, but I'm just thankful that there was a photographer there. And so it has made me consider perhaps more than I normally do the relationship between photographers and like the public and things like this. And I think it's created a lot of discourse. Right. I think that like most journalists would disagree with the take that like photographers shouldn't be taking photos of anyone who they can't like verify consent from in public. But there's been more discourse about like what images stick around in our consciousness, why those images stick around in our consciousness, if we need to know certain information before we like are allowed to assign value to them. I mean, one thing that really struck me, and I'm thankful to Ellie for just like telling it like it is, Ellie Silverman, the reporter, Bernita, she seems to not even really recall or be aware of what happened on the metro with the Patriot Front. And so that is like another element to this whole discussion. At one point in Ellie's story is presented with a photo and it's like, that's not me.
Yeah. And the other thing, I guess we've sort of heard both arguments here about like, is the media a guarantor of safety, as the man said? He was relieved that there was a photographer there, or is it a force for danger, that it turns your picture into something that you don't own anymore, that potentially makes you a viral target of hate and violence and danger? I don't know. It's a weird time we live in, huh?
That's a big one. I don't know if we can tackle all that today, Mike.
Here is something from our sponsors at the DC Department of Behavioral Health. DC is turning a corner, and the numbers back it up. Fatal opioid overdoses dropped 33% in this city from 2023 to 2024. That's not just data, that's real people, real families, still together. But the work isn't done, and neither are we. If you or someone you love is struggling, help is closer than you think. Text Live Long DC to 888-811 to connect with treatment, housing, and recovery support right here in the district. Free Narcan is available at nearly 40 locations across DC because nobody should lose someone for lack of access. And if you're in crisis right now, call or text 988. Know your worth, know your alternatives, know your value, know yourself. Recovery is possible. Find out how at knowyourpathdc.com. Kayla, there is one big World Cup match left, the championship. Which means you've been doing a lot of stuff about where you should go and how you should watch and so on. But now it's like there's no more room to mess around. There's no more room to experiment. You've got to pick one. You did a list for us of best places to watch, and I'd like to, you sort of did it by different moods and different tastes. Give us your tips and then tell us where you're going to be doing it.
Oh, yeah. Well, to be honest, I will probably be doing it at home. If I'm being completely honest.
Is that one of the options? Watch at Kayla's house?
It's not one of the options. This is one of the unspoken options. I think, well, have you guys been going out to watch games? I mean, it's so fun. Yeah. I mean,
it's
DC
so fun.
been,
it's also a lot.
But it is a lot. And sometimes you just have to pick your battles. I think there are a few of these that I will actually talk about that I would consider. Just because you are guaranteed a seat. I'm the kind of girl that I don't like to stand next to a lot of crowded men for hours at a time. But if that is your jam, then some of these are for you. No, I'm kidding. There's really options.
That's where I've been going. It's true. That's the experience.
Really? Yeah. There's really options for like everybody.
Wait, is there a woman-only space where you can watch?
I have not seen that, but that's genius, Mike. I'm sure you could go to one of like the Sapphic bars in DC though and have like a really great time watching soccer with the lasses. But yes. Okay. So essentially there's a lot of large public outdoor free events going on, right? You have like the Wharf will be screening it. You have the FIFA fan zone on the National Mall, which honestly I've heard some mixed things about, but remains probably one of the biggest screens in the city. You have Hylon, which is the top of Union Market. They're also going to be showing it, but also keep in mind that it's going to be very hot this weekend. Like it's very hot now. It's not going to be, in the 90s, but I think it will be in the high 80s and humid as DC always is. So you might want to consider something inside. If I were you, I'm going to be looking for something inside. There's a couple things that are interesting to me. One is Hook Hall, which I am usually not a fan of.
Tell people what it is, just in case they don't know.
It's like a third wave beer garden. It's like an upscale beer garden with a lot of there's a lot of events and event space. They went viral for the hot tub. They had a public hot tub that you could go into. And I called it an incident because I thought it was gross, but many people enjoyed it. Now they're going to be playing the game, and you can actually pay money for a seat. So you can pay like $25 and it gets you a bucket of beer and a dedicated space in their A-seed events venue, essentially. I would be willing to do that. Like, I would be willing to pay for to have some breathing room, to have along with a couple beers, to sit and watch the game for hours. Is that something you guys? I don't know. Is that crazy to pay for that?
I don't think so.
You think so? Yeah. See, I feel like I'm just not a real sports fan when I say, which I'm not, I admit. But I do love watching the World Cup games because they're just such a fun vibe. I would consider paying a little bit of money for my own space. But
I don't think that's a hot
agrees.
take. I mean, I don't think that's a hot take. I think the bars have been so crowded that if I hadn't been to a couple games at Franklin Hall and at Exiles and hadn't experienced how crowded it was before, I would have said no. I've changed my mind.
I don't know,
If you do want a crowd, you can go to Midlands, which is across the street, and we'll definitely have a great crowd going.
I think if you're going out to a public place for a crowd, like you need to go out for a crowd. I mean, it's a very popular event.
That's
And like
true.
this
You need to
idea
stay
of like
home.
creating like a class system where it's like, ooh, Kayla's sitting in the skybox.
It is
She
kinda
doesn't have to
crazy,
mix it up with
yeah.
those filthy masses. Like, you don't want to be that girl.
$25.
No, you're so right. When you're right, you're right. That's the age I'm at. But I will say, wherever you go, do get there early, unless you have a paid seat or whatever. Do get there early because the lines truly have been like wrapping around, like Franklin Hall, like the lines wrap around the block for that before the game even starts. So if you are passionate about seeing the whole game and being inside, definitely get there early. One other one I want to point out is at La Cosecha in the Union Market neighborhood. It's with Gorilla FC, which is sort of a community soccer foundation, I guess, that have been doing these really awesome events throughout the whole tournament. And they're going to be having a pop-up soccer, like local soccer tournament during the day before the game starts, and then they're going to have the watch party, and then they're going to have like a big block party afterwards outside of La Cosecha. So if you want a full day's worth of events with activities and food options and drink and music, and you want somewhere to really just like go party after the game because you're excited or commiserate with fellow fans, then I would definitely check out that one. I just really love the organization, honestly, and I've been to a few of their events throughout the tournament, and they've been really, really great.
I really love these pictures, where you see like the crowd in downtown Buenos Aires or something, they're all going nuts and they're all rooting for the same team together. And then, these scenes in the beer gardens and bars and stuff in DC, that it's not that, because that it's not like this is only open to Argentina fans or only open to Spain fans. It's everybody. If you want to go and be surrounded by the like-minded, does this even happen in DC that like bars divide up by enthusiasm?
Yes, it absolutely does happen. Spain has a lot of bars like that are specifically for Spain. You have Casa Teresa downtown, which is it's a restaurant in the square. It's kind of a bougie restaurant, but they've been playing all the games and you don't need to buy something when you go there. The same with a lot of, a couple of the Jose Andres restaurants. Jaleo is going to be playing all the games. If you go to the Spanish embassy, they have on their Instagram a whole list of bars, DC bars that you can watch the games at. So I definitely recommend it. Franklin Hall has had some affiliation, but is not official in any way. And then for Argentina, the only one that I know of is Floor Coffee in Georgetown, which is an Argentinian coffee shop / bookstore, and they've been showing all the games and specifically call themselves an Argentina venue for
but you can only get coffee.
But I don't think they serve alcohol. Yeah, and I don't think you can bring your own. So, and it's definitely a much quieter vibe. But maybe that's your thing.
Floor's so cute. It's one of my
so
favorites.
Cute.
It's like a combo coffee shop bookstore, but not exactly where I would like.
No, it's not
typically
like
think
rowdy.
Of as a sports venue, but
if anybody knows of any Argentina bars, let us know.
Hit Kayla up.
Yeah,
we'll share the word. All right, I want to give a big thank you to our newest CityCast DC neighbors, Gabriel R., Monica A., and Betsy Y. Thank you all for your support. Today, paid subscribers get a bonus 4th roundup chat. We're going to talk about the upcoming proposed renovations to Audi Field. If you want to be sure you always get the full episode, please become a member. Head to membership.citycast.fm and sign up. It's only $10 a month. Members get ad-free listening, exclusive members events, and an extra events newsletter every week. Again, that's membership.citycast.fm. That is all for today here on CityCast DC. Our production team this week was Julia Karen and Lizzie Goldsmith. You can check out all of our excellent newsletters and reporting at dc.citycast.fm, and our hosts are Bridget Todd and me, Michael Schaefer. Music is by Alex Roldan, with additional music from Blue Lou, Rue Walker, and Philip Ayers from Triple Scoop Music via Getty Images. If you enjoyed the show, why not shout about it at whatever World Cup event you go to? We'll be back Monday morning with more news from around the city. Bye.